Hello. So today we are here to talk about gun control and the issues facing our children today and how banishing guns is not the answer. However, a regulated reform with open-mindedness could be a solution. Guns are something that are part of our history, and they are something that have a productive part in society. They're not just a piece of weaponry, nor are they only something needing to be used for self-defense. Guns are often used for activities such as competitive shooting, pistol or rifle, NRA-sanctioned shooting events. Teaches camaraderie as well as discipline with breathing and control, as well as obviously the technique of shooting accurately. There's also things like sporting and hiking and camping. Self-defense in that scheme of thinking comes to do with nature. If on a long hiking trail, say a 10-mile trail, if you're hiking with your dog or by yourself, and the reality is that you might not encounter another human being in that 10-mile path, you might encounter a rabid animal. So if you're a legal pistol owner, you have the option of carrying your weapon with you, and in the event you did encounter a rabid animal, you could actually defend yourself as opposed to having to take the chance of being attacked, bitten, and or left on the trail with a wound and unable to seek help. Sometimes these trails might not have cell phone service, and the same is obviously true with camping. If you're out in a deserted location and you don't have cell phone service to seek help, if you don't have a weapon, you would basically be defenseless against a rabid animal on a trail or in a camping situation. When it comes to activities like competitive shooting, again, the camaraderie and team building that those events hold is really good, and it can actually help people with depression and anxiety. It teaches breathing control, which is something that's often used also with meditation. So the controlling of breathing is, very similar, and shooting a firearm can actually be almost like a meditative sport. While there are obvious issues with illegal guns being procured by criminals and used obviously to commit crimes, and also concerns with people with mental health issues getting weapons, that's where there needs to be a broader reform on more of a federal level, in my opinion. Excuse me. If there are things that exist on a federal level like DOT, OSHA, the Pipeline Hazard Administration, etc., why can't there be the same for guns and firearms? There's no reason, in my opinion, there can't be a statewide cross-check for mental health and or domestic issues. Any domestic crimes or mental health concerns by health providers would need to be mandatedly reported, similar to some medicines have certain requirements that are similar. I personally have been involved in firearms and using firearms my entire life, and I've also suffered from depression. And I've gone to see a psychiatrist who knew I owned firearms and who agreed that it was a healthy part of my recovery or treatment, if you will, with depression to continue participating in the weekly activity of going to the range and participating in the camaraderie event of shooting competitively. For those who say that guns are just, mass weapons, there's such a stigma caused by the media using terms like assault rifle, when the reality of an AR-15 is that it stands for Armalite rifle, which was in the 1950s the first manufacturer of that particular style rifle. All it is a shape and body style that's supposed to look similar to a military rifle, but the reality is that it's no different than a wooden barrel hunting rifle used to shoot squirrels. It's a .22 rifle round, and it shoots about 1 round per second. So it's the same, and it's 1 shot per trigger pull. Semi-automatic rifle. There's nothing automatic about it in any shape, way, or form. When the media causes such a frenzy calling these AR-15s assault rifles and automatic rifles instead of semi-automatic rifles, hunting rifles, which is what they are, it causes an undue mentality, a stigma with the gun use. And the reality is that if you look at historical data, the most common weapon used for mass casualty events in history across the entire world, and you can see the graphic that I'll attach at the end, is vehicles and bombs. More mass casualties happen from vehicles being run into pedestrians or groups of people or crowds, or from bombs or other types of explosives than they do firearms. A firearm is less capable of causing mass casualty than a explosive or a vehicle can. So before we spend so much time just banning guns because that's the answer, the reality is once we ban the guns, no one's going to be able to protect themselves when actual major issues may occur down the road, which is the entire reason why the Second Amendment was created to begin with, is so that the government does not have the right to take my, as a citizen's, right to protect my family should there ever become such a travesty of war that it's government versus citizen, which, in my opinion, is exactly what's going to happen unless there's major reform and done sensibly. So taking guns away is not the answer. Sheltering everybody from what guns should be taught as healthily used for is not the answer. However, respecting firearms, teaching children to respect firearms, and teaching children to respect each other and life in general, instead of running to pull a trigger and end someone's life over an argument, we need to better teach our youth to respect each other and respect life so that they can have a discussion and be, adult about things and not take the end result consequence. Because when you're seeking a hunting license, you have to show that you're capable of handling and mentally capable of handling a firearm. And that includes watching a video that shows you the real life dangers and consequences of a firearm accident. And any 12-year-old who sat through seeing that gunshot video will never, ever consider taking a person's life. I'm one of those people included, and I can never imagine ever causing that much pain on another human being. So, in conclusion, there needs to be change, and it needs to start with sensible conversation and open-mindedness to accept the fact that there are major issues with illegal weapons and guns committing crimes. However, the reality is it's not the first major issue when it comes to mass tragedy, and there are bigger types of mass tragedies that do and are in fact occurring every day. So instead of just banning guns, because that's not going to be the actual answer, my thought and conclusion is that we need to have sensible conversation about education and respect and a federal reform so that the state level can cross-check and mental health providers and domestic crime people, everybody will be reported, and those that should not have a firearm or that maybe are questionable who need to be spoken to by a mental health provider can determine if they are okay to have the gun. As I said before, I had depression, and my psychiatrist said it was actually in my favor to have that sport and that weekly event of participating in the sport of competitive shooting. So everybody's different, but until we take off our blindfolds and are willing to even have a conversation, nothing will ever change. So in conclusion, I truly hope that at some point in time people are willing to accept the fact that change does need to happen, but it's one step at a time, and it starts with open conversation. Thank you.